Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make YouTube videos. Watching my favorite YouTubers having an absolute blast would always spark my motivation. Be it Husky Mudkips, Paperbat VG, and Slyfox Hound playing Minecraft and Terraria, Vanoss, Wildcat, H2O Delirious, and that whole crew playing Call of Duty, or Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and PewDiePie just being their goofy selves. I wanted to put myself out there somehow, some way, but it never really happened, not really for a decade after I first got the idea. The most I ever did was record some shoddy footage and never edit it at all. I did upload a few things to my personal channel, but those never really took off because of how little effort I put into it, or content creation in general. To put it simply, I was just lazy. But then I got an idea. The 5th anniversary Monster Hunter World was just around the corner at the time, and it was a game I had already put over 300 hours into, and I recalled wanting to take on some in-game challenges but not having the guts to do so. I remember very clearly sitting in Celiana's Gathering Hub with my Lightbright glaive, contemplating whether or not to fight Elatrion and chickening out on it. After all, I didn't want to be that guy, you know? The memory of being too scared to fight Elatrion came up to the surface, along with my other experiences with the game, and I remembered being pretty bad at it. So with those memories in mind, I decided to take on the game again, but I also decided, just for the hell of it, to record myself for a couple of hours to see what I could do with the footage, and I discovered that it really wasn't that hard to condense it into something that, at the time, I considered watchable. And so, with a few hours of recorded gameplay and the idea in my head that I sucked at Monster Hunter, I came up with this channel, Alex Sucks at Games. And it was this decision that would change my life in a pretty big way. February 7th, 2023. The channel's inaugural series, The Road to Fatalis, began. From episode 1, I had already had the idea deep in the back of my mind to take the series all the way to Fatalis, but at that moment, I was hesitant to do so. So I just made it a generic playthrough. After all, taking a fresh profile all the way to the very last fight would take me ages to do, and to be fair, it did. The end goal is to fight each of the Black Dragons solo once, including Safajiva. It's doable, I've seen people do it. By God, it's gonna be a hell of a ride. But then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th episodes came out, and those videos got a couple hundred views apiece. So with the release of episode 5, I finally made the change to the series. The Road to Fatalis officially began there. The first few episodes were undoubtedly an experimental phase for myself, having never tackled content creation in a serious manner until then. I wanted to take on some self-imposed challenges along the way, which would turn out to be quite redundant in the end, and I generally was just trying to figure out my own way of doing things. Including the full fight with the monster was how I did things initially, and thankfully that idea was short-lived. If I remember correctly, episode 2 consisted pretty much of 3 entirely unedited fights. At this time, I was also experimenting with audio, which turned out to be pretty terrible because my microphone would pick up every single little thump and click of the keyboard and mouse on several episodes, which was especially bad in episode 7. And speaking of bad audio, for some reason the sound effects in episode 4 lost their volume filters and were extremely loud, so I apologize for blasting your ears out with that one.
Enemy spotted.
Episode 11 was when I really put the pedal to the metal in regards to my commitment to the challenge. Completing every single optional quest in the base game turned out extremely doable. Tedious, but doable. At least until I realized I needed not only HR 100, but during Road to Platinum, I discovered that I would have needed to defeat Behemoth not just once, but twice. And I'm glad I didn't see that until then, because I don't know if I could have done it then. The last episode of Season 1, where I fight Arc-Tempered Elder Dragons, really proves to myself how much I improved as a hunter later on. I struggled to fight Arc-Tempered Nargigante the first time around, and while I did manage to find a strategy for Teostra and Xeno'jiiva, Nargigante went unchallenged for the rest of Road to Fatalis, and it wasn't until the first episode of Road to Platinum that I finally defeated him. Oh, and if you're wondering why I yelled magnets after defeating AT Xeno, it was a reference to Breaking Bad, and no, I couldn't tell you why I did that. I don't remember why.
Yes! Oh! Magnets!
It was at this time that I had just over 100 subscribers, and after doing everything I wanted to do in high rank and seeing the sub count, I decided to make the best of season 1 video. I wanted to celebrate what I had accomplished and to show the best of what I had done at that point, and to help newer viewers catch up on what I was doing. And now to see this video getting almost 150,000 views at this point is just simply unbelievable, and yet there it is, sitting right there with some of the biggest numbers I've ever seen attached to something that I've made. Moving on to season 2 with Call of Teroth was something I consider to be a pretty bold move. To my knowledge, soloing Call of Teroth in high rank gear is not something that many people really bother doing, and frankly, I don't even remember why I did it in the first place. And I do remember thinking it would take me the full 2 weeks to solo her, but as it would turn out, it took me only 3 hours to do.
Oh! Holy shit! Holy shit, I actually did it! Session 1, day 1.
A couple of episodes after this, I remember getting pretty burnt out. Sessions would be shortened from a few hours to about 45 minutes, to me doing only a single hunt, logging off for a while, logging back on, and repeating that for a few times throughout the day. I blame Brachitios for that, honestly, because of how stingy he was with his mantle, and myself for just being plain stubborn.
Oh, there it is! Finally. God, what was that, like 15 Brachitioses at this point?
I didn't need the best gear at the time, but by God, I was gonna have it. Once I finally got that build made, the story fight with Velkhana gave me a run for my money. And did you know that this video used to be called A Long-Awaited Showdown rather than the Iceborne Wyvern? I don't remember why I renamed it, to be honest, but there it is anyway. Episode 30 was the very first episode whose footage I got solely from live streaming, which I consider to be a massive turning point for the channel. Knights of Ocelot was such a massive help in getting my settings straight for streaming, and it's thanks to him that I've been able to get to where I am today. Episode 32, the one where the community collectively lost their damn marbles. This episode is where the longest running meme of the channel came from, which is me being French, which actually isn't a meme, by the way. I do in fact have French lineage. From here, Raging Brachitios was the next big hurdle, and accounting for the whole build up to Fatalis throughout the whole series, this honestly was probably the biggest wall in terms of how much preparation I had to put into it. Leveling my MR and my guiding lands ahead of time for health augments and building a set specifically to fight a Raging Brachie, after struggling to fight it with a Charge Blade, was a lot of effort, and a certain meme or two was spawned along the way.
Be capturable? He might be capturable. Submissive and capturable?
But even with a less than ideal bow, I still managed to pull it off, even if the final hit wasn't with the bow itself. The end of season 2 was met with a lot of anticipation, not just from myself, but from the community. I'd set goals for myself to complete, that being to complete several best in slot sets and to defeat a series of monsters, one being Tempered Ruiner and Gigante. And it was after these challenges that I would make the single biggest change to the series, which was allowing multiplayer. After all, if I needed to do something solo, I could just set the quest to one player anyway. And I wanted help with Raging Brachitios, but that's besides the point. Opening the floodgates and allowing my community to hunt alongside me for the first time was one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had. All this time, I had been alone in the gathering hub for my quests, but then every time I went back, there would always be someone there to greet me. From here, the next hurdle was Safi Jiva, a fight which I had not exactly thought impossible, but insanely difficult for someone to do on their own. And after doing a solo hunt to probe at the logistics and seeing that it would basically take an entire day, it makes me even more glad that I started doing multiplayer.
So if each attempt is 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of effort is that, an hour of effort wouldn't even clear the first level, guys.
Episode 45, the filler episode. This one's probably my least favorite, to be honest. The massive amount of technical issues I was having meant that a quote-unquote full episode wasn't really on the cards, but I figured it would have been good to at least turn my plights into an episode for everyone to witness just how ridiculous it all was.
I'm currently streaming through OBS, so if this continues to fuck up, I don't know what I'm going to do for content.
Alatreon, the king of elements. I had gone into this fight with some less than optimal setups, and if I remember it correctly, I wasn't even planning on using dual blades at the time, but it was the one I was stuck with for fire element. Which is honestly pretty funny considering it was the weapon I got the kill with. Using a fire weapon during fire phase to tenderize the horns and ending up getting the kill that way is probably the weirdest way I'll ever see someone finish him off.
Let's fucking go!
Arc-Tempered Volcana is, and always will be, my absolute favorite fight in not only the entirety of Road to Fatalis, but the game as well. The only thing that matters is you, and how well you know your weapon and your opponent. Fighting it with pre-Fatalis gear is something that everyone said I was crazy for doing, and yet I still managed to pull it off, and on what was basically my second try nonetheless.
Fucking go! Second try? Second try? Fatalis gear who? Arc-tempered who? Go fuck yourself!
And then, the legendary Black Dragon himself, Fatalis. 10 months of effort all came down to this. 10 months of grinding, completing challenges, preparing myself mentally for Monster Hunter's toughest and most iconic fight. And I defeat him on my third attempt ever. I remember this moment very clearly. Seeing the camera zoom out, the quest complete pop up, and freezing at the sight of it all. I had done it. 10 months, 52 videos, picking up at the time a little under 10,000 subscribers along the way. And finally, it was done.
It's over. It's over.
And after the Road to Fatalis ended, I wasn't really sure what to do. I wanted to attempt other challenge runs and to even branch out into other games. And I did try a weapon nuzlocke at the time, but I was putting too much pressure on myself to play well, and after the stress came to a head, I ditched it. But then in April of this year, I had an idea. I remember mentioning a couple of times during Road to Fatalis that I wanted to do an endemic life hunt, but why stop there? Why not go the full mile and not only complete 100% of the game's achievements, but also complete what was left incomplete from Road to Fatalis and tackle some personal challenges of my own? And so on May 27th, 2024, the Road to Platinum began. Completing almost all of my unfinished business from Road to Fatalis pretty much immediately in episode 1 was the most solid start I could have gotten. And then there was episode 3 with the collection of most rare endemic life. Only on nights where large moon slug populations appear? Yeah, no, fuck that, that's a lie. Episode 4 with the birthday stream, teaming up with Tails, Scully Skull, and Forest Raider, which was so freaking fun by the way, and I can't wait to hunt with you guys again.
Not again.
Okay, I'm good.
You alright, Alex?
Slightly. Episode 5 of me solving monsters I hadn't yet, and of course, one of my personal favorites, episode 6. Then followed the completion of several achievements, responding to SOS flares, finally finish off the base game optional quests, completing all research, and finally doing all 50 arena quests. Yes, nowhere to go but up. And what better way to celebrate than to atomize one of the most annoying Elder Dragons in the world? Jesus Christ. Look at the fucking screen. And of course, all that hunting finally resulted in me completing every single armor set in Master Rank. To be honest, I really wanted to do wacky builds and maybe even progression guides with all this stuff I had collected, but with Wilds just around the corner and the 150-hour Ice Mod challenge taking up most of my time at this point, I don't think I'll ever get around to that. Episode 14, the one where I put the pedal to the metal and got the crown hunting. I wanted crowns to be done and dusted pretty quickly, so I not only installed Hunter Pie, but I also had my community mentors help scout out for crowns. And within just a few streams, I had them all. Along the way though, there's always going to be some shenanigans ensuing. I have a Legiana. I don't think I can be your mom anymore.
Now I need to hear Alex's best Legiana roar. Alright, hold on. Hello, Discord. Alright, you want a Legiana roar? You want a fucking Legiana roar? I'll give you a Legiana roar. Give me just a second here.
Also, getting the well done steak achievement as my last one will always be a nice cherry on top.
Da-da! Yes! Who needs the music?
With 100% of achievements finally under my belt, it was time to take on my personal challenges. Soloing Alatreon and Arc-Tempered Velkhana without carding was a daunting challenge to approach, but turned out to be a ton of fun to undertake. Arc-Tempered Velkhana will especially always be a treat to fight.
Yes! Oh my god! Oh! Yes!
And then finally, at the end of it all, Fatalis for one last challenge. The Charge Blade in hindsight may not be the toughest matchup, that would probably go to the Gun Lance, but using a slow and methodical weapon against a monster like Fatalis is still a tough but fun challenge to piece together. And after just a few tries, I was victorious. A buzzer-beating victory with a roaming ballista on an untenderized chest. You simply cannot get any closer than that.
Yes! Oh! Baby! Fuck!
And so, with Fatalis defeated one last time, that was it for the major long-running series for World. It's definitely not the end, as evidenced by my Ice Mod Challenge run, but as far as Road 2 series goes, it's done. And after this Ice Mod Challenge run, we'll finally be saying goodbye to Monster Hunter World. But until then, there's plenty of fun to be had. The Road to Fatalis and now Road to Platinum will always have a place in my heart as one of the best, if not the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Walking down these roads and being able to share my experience with so many people is a privilege that still blows my mind, even a year after these series have ended and almost 2 years after the channel began. I will always remember these series. No matter how far into the future this channel will take me, the Road to Fatalis will always be deep in the foundations. The success, the memories, the people I've met and have the opportunity to play games with now, it will always hold a special place in my heart. Thank you, all of you, for stopping by to watch these adventures unfold. The Road to Fatalis and the Road to Platinum, the first of many, with plenty more to come. Thank you for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon.